11 degrees out here. Do you believe that? 11 in sunny Australia. Okay, you know the name of the gaff, West Green, and this is Steve, commonly known as Manavananian Sivara Subramaniam, Station Master East West Green, and Ruby, who's not here today. She's having a kip. I don't blame her. So I just come back from the UK. I was in London last week, early last week. Yeah, it was depressing for various reasons. Well, it's a depressing place for various reasons, but it was so dry. I went to Kensington Palace, the gardens, and I've never seen grass look so brown in all my life. I thought that only happened out here in Australia. But anyway, okay, tip for today. I seen this on a t-shirt in Amsterdam a week before, and I thought about it, and it makes good sense. It says, take fun seriously. So have some seriously good fun. I think there's a lot of truth in it, especially for old people, or people of my age, grand age of 72 now. Anyway, enough said. What am I doing today? This is part 2 of the J69 kit. I'm actually going to start building it today, so stay tuned. Here's the instructions for the kit, which is still to be released. As Jim says, look, he's still working on these. Look, it says work in progress. About right. So by the time he releases this, these will be right. Anyway, it's a legacy kit. What does that mean? Well, Jim released this, I think he said, as a kit of parts in 1991. I could be wrong, but I think it was Jim's first stab at making a kit. And there was a few things wrong with it due to the photographic process and parallax error, and Jim mentions this in the kit. However, don't let that put you off. If you follow the instructions verbatim, this kit's going to turn out wonderful. Anyway, now something you need to bear in mind. Points to note: parts are numbered in logical order. Tack solder a part in place, then adjust the next part to match. Some parts are designed oversized to be trimmed to solder. Solder parts only solid when happy with positioning. Common sense. Now, so they're like, you put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all that. So it's 1 till when you finish. Now, look, if you look at this, you've got part 1, which is a foot plate. Part 2 is 2 of those. That's the buffer beams. Part 3 is a valance. So there's, even though it's only 3 parts, there's 5 of them, right? Which I'm going to get out. You've got to put a captive nut in, front and back. But notice, right, it jumps a bit, which is not a mistake. 10, 11, 7. Then all of a sudden you get to 23 and you think, where's all the rest of them? Well, you still follow it. This just shows you you don't put the cab roof on now. So, for instance, part 4, then you go part 5. So this is put on in the flat, the around the tank sides. 8. So it continues on. So just put them in the order you find them. That's the best way. I mean, if you look at the cab roof, and I've mentioned this before, and I think this is a good touch. Where is it? Cab roofs on tank engines need to be removable, because if you solder it on, then you've got the problem. How do you paint the thing? So what Jim has done, and I reckon it's really good. Let's get a pointer. He's provided, got 2 pointers. He's provided 2 white metal formers to the shape of the cab roof, which will match here and there. They're soldered in on lines there. So what happens is this should be a good pressed fit. So the cab should sit on, there should be no daylight. That's the plan. I really like that idea. Good one, Jim. Yeah, love it. So what I'm going to do today, I've got two of the frets out. These parts will all be cut out and put back in the box. There's a foot plate, that's 1. Now, 2 and 3 are on the chassis. So we've got parts 2, that's the buffer beams, and we've got parts 3, which is, hang on, I've got to look now because I'm trying to do this. Where is it? There's part 3, and there's another part 3 here somewhere. I've just seen it. Hold on. Part there. So I've got, I've got all of them. That's it. So here's the parts I need: the foot plate, the valences, 2 buffer beams, and 2 captive nuts. I need to clean all this up first and solder them in. There's the parts I've got out the middle of the foot plate, 2 steps, and the spectacle plates front and rear. So that's the frets I've got left. They can all go back in the box now. Now, something to think about is this. Yeah, you could put these steps on. You could put them all on now. Big mistake. That's why he's got it 25 and 26. If you put steps on now, I can guarantee it, you're going to bend them, because steps are pretty fragile. Steps are probably one of the last things you want to put on a loco, because as soon as you put it down, you buckle them, they bend and they break. If you haven't built a kit before, you wouldn't probably know this, but anyone who's built a kit, including me, will say, don't put them on. They're just in the way. So there you go. So I've got all these parts. So I've got to clean this up, solder on the captive nuts, and just add all this on. Now, the other thing I've got to make sure of, I think these are, this will go, you can see, I think the hook will go slightly towards the bottom. So you've got to be careful which way you put these on. Now, there's various ways to cut frets out. You can get fret cutters, all sorts of manner of stuff. What I've got, these are old naff, cheap, nasty, horrible Chinese, well, it doesn't matter. They're not good needle files. You got them from a pound shop or a $2 shop. But you file them up, and they're good for a couple of things. One, they're good for scraping solder off and stuff like that. But basically what I do is I put it on here, put it down there, and tap with a hammer, and out comes the part. Like everything, you want to make sure you don't distort parts. If you do, I've got these. This is from my old telephone days in the here in Australia. These are called duckbill pliers, and these are probably 60, 70 years old, maybe. Good quality stuff, made in Sweden. They're used for wiper contacts and relays. But I've kept hold of them, and they're great. I'm in the laundry now, so I've got some Barkeeper's Friend. There's other products you can use. What I want to do, this is the foot plate. Obviously that's tarnished a bit, so I'm just going to clean this up. I think Vical has various products you can use. So I'm just going to clean this up using that and a toothbrush. Just to show you, I've just done that bit. It took me 30 seconds. I'm just going to do the whole lot now. So there's the parts. I'll just let these dry off. Notice I haven't taken the cusps off that end, off the outside end. That's the solder side, so I've done that. This side has still got them on. I will take those off after it's soldered on nice and solid. The other thing, once I've done all this, so once I do this, I'll tack solder it a few places. When it's all square, that's when you run a fillet of solder along and make it all good. The other thing I'm going to do, which I always do, because I use phosphoric acid, and obviously an acid stays active. So once I've finished soldering, I'll get some bicarb soda, which is an alkaline, put it in a bucket or something, and I'll douse all this, the whole thing. That will neutralise the flux, take it out, wash it. That way the flux is neutralised, which is a good thing. So I've got this done, just got to clean it all up probably. See the nuts and bolts. So I've just got to solder that. So that's a hidden captive nut. So this screws through the chassis and holds the body on. Whatever you do, do not forget those. Look who's turned up. It's Ruby. It's Station Master's dog. What do you want, Ruby? You love Daddy? Funny girl you are. So here's the basic frame. Sorry, footplate, I should say. With the captive nuts on. So what I did is I just screwed the nut up, sorry, a bolt up from inside, pulled it tight, fluxed it up, and just a bit of solder. That's all you need. And then take them out. As you can see, I've done all this. It's all pretty straight. Now, I've got to turn my attention to the frames. Now, in the instructions, Jim says there's certain things you've got to do. I had to mark off, it'll tell you how much. I think it's 20.5 mil there and 1 mil there. So I did that both ends. I punched that out and drilled a very small hole. That's for the sanders. So they weren't in there, so I've done that. Also, for some reason, Jim said you've got to cut a little piece off here and there, and also 1.5 mil off both ends. So I've marked that up 1.5 mil. I'm just going to file down to the line. That's what I've got to do. The other thing, the holes for the bearings are too small. You can see the middle one. You can see the outside ones. They've been reamed out a bit. I've got a reamer. What have I done with it? I got one of these. I've had this for a while. So you just got to put that in there and turn it. Go from both sides, but keep offering it up. Do not go too hard with that, otherwise you'll end up with a whopping big hole. I've made mine so they're a good, almost a tight fit. Yeah, as I said, if you go too hard and too many turns, probably took me a couple of minutes each hole just to open it up till it fits. There's no slop in that, which is good. The other thing I need to do, Jim points out, whilst there is holes for Slater's pickups on the leading and trailing axle, he never put any in for the middle. So he tells you where to, he tells you where to draw a line from there and that way. I'll show you. It's all very clear. So Jim says, come down from the mark 5 mil, and from this slot here 5 mil. So just draw one that way and then that way, and then where they cross, just punch it and then drill it out. As I said, this was a legacy kit, and for some reason, I don't know why, Jim never put this in the first place. So, but anyway, it's going in now. I've still got a filing to do. There's the 4 holes for the sanders. I've marked up and punched, so it's 5 mil in from there, 5 mil in from there. So I drew a line across, and then 5 mil down from the top of the frame, and I've just punched that. I'm not going to drill those out yet until I get the wheels, which will be here this week. So at the moment, all I've got to do is do the filing at the ends, as Jim says. What else was I going to say? Now, I haven't opened up this yet. The other thing is, this will probably be oval, and I'll tell you why. Before I started this, if you draw a line from the bottom of that to the bottom of that, you will find this bearing ever so slightly higher. And the idea is, you've really got an 040 and the middle wheel doesn't touch the rail, very so slightly, so ever so slightly I should say. Jim suggests ovaling that out, and so that the bearing can move down a bit. Otherwise, if it's all level, you've got some uneven track, you could get one wheel come off the track, which is the advantage of springing the chassis and putting Slater's cast horn blocks in, and guides and springs. But I'm not going to do that here, so I'm just going to build it as is. So I got this all built, and I'm pretty pleased with that. Now, Here, I've done exactly what Jim says here. I put in 4 holes. It's all the measurements are there for the sanding gear. I've opened out the holes for these bearings. I've also added little pilot holes. That is going to be for the centre Slater pickups. Now, you may wonder, why does he tell you to file this off? Jim tells you to file 1.5mm off here. Not the whole frame, just there to there and there to there. I just got off the phone to Jim, and the reason is, if you leave that like that, and you've got a screw coupling in there, and especially the vacuum pipes which hang over the top of the over the bottom of the buffer beam, you won't be able to get this out. So that's why all you're going to do, I've marked it up with a set of dividers or whatever it is. I'm just going to file down. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're not going to see it anyway. It's just to aid getting this in and out. Also, one end, this end, Jim says to take about 0.5mm off, just so it allows it to fit between the buffer beams without fouling anything. So that's what I'm going to do now. So as you can see, I've filed down about 1.5mm, as Jim suggests. That is so that pipes going over the top of the buffer beam don't foul it. I've got to do the same here. I've scribed that. Look, this doesn't have to be 100% accurate or good. I mean, you're not going to see this, but anyway, just take your time. Be careful. So I don't know if you can see this. I've just scribed. You can see the scribe mark there and the scribe mark there. Jim says to take that off, the thickness off. It's the thickness of the frame, so I'll just set my dividers to the thickness of the frame, scribe it. I'm just going to file it down. This is just so this fits in a bit easier. In making this afternoon, when you look at the photo before, I've noticed the buffer beam is an overhang, which there always is. Oh, sorry. But it's not parallel. It sticks out at this end. And I thought, what have I done? Anyway, I measured the valences, just the top here, just the top where the bottom of the valence, and I've noticed that, let's see if I can do it, one end is a bit thicker. I spoke to Jim about it, and he's just noticed it too. Sorry about that. He says, my word, he says, it is out a bit. So he's going to put a note in the instructions about that. As I said, this kit hasn't been released yet. So what I'm going to do, look, to be honest, you wouldn't even know. If you didn't look, you wouldn't know. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to unsolder a piece of that there, the buffer beam. Going to file that down slightly and put it back on. Problem solved. Well, this will be the end of part 2. So I've made the basic frames up. There's still, if I want, a couple of spaces to put in. I haven't worked that out yet, where they're going to go. This is all good. I did fix up the end, so I just took off one end, a bit of... I just filed that piece of that down and resoldered it on. Jim knows about it, so he'll include that in the instructions. I guess the trick is always check that the valences are the same length. My next thing I'm going to work on, I'm going to make up the coupling rods. And now I know, according to Jim, there is a legacy issue with that. They've got to be fixed. The holes are slightly in the wrong place. That's another story, but it will be fixed up, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So I've put these captive nuts on. Just hold on, I'm going to fix it. So I've fitted the basic frames to the basic foot plate. Screwed both ends onto these captive nuts here. So that's the end of it. That's done.